of ground cinnamon in your kitchen, do you actually know what kind it is? Because across 2024 and 2025, U.S. food safety testing flagged more than a dozen ground cinnamon products for elevated levels of lead. And for a body over 60, lead doesn't simply pass through. Over time, it can add to memory trouble, higher blood pressure, and extra strain on kidneys that are already working harder than they used to. Here's the frustrating part. Cinnamon genuinely can help steady your blood sugar, but only the right type, in the right amount, paired with the right food. Most people miss all three. They grab the cheapest jar, sprinkle it on the worst possible breakfast, and then wonder why nothing changes on their meter. So today, I'm walking you through the 5 best cinnamon foods for blood sugar after 60, ranked from quietly helpful to genuinely powerful. I'll tell you exactly which type to buy, how much actually does something, and the handful of cinnamon foods that spike your sugar instead of calming it. And hold on until number 1, because it's the simplest, cheapest food on this whole list. It's probably in your pantry tonight, and most people ruin it without ever realizing. Let me show you how to get it right. Before we go any further, I'd love to know one small thing. This morning, did cinnamon touch anything you ate or drank? Your coffee, your oatmeal, or maybe nothing at all yet today? Just type one word below. It tells me who's here with me. And if you want steady, trustworthy guidance on managing your blood sugar after 60, subscribe and stay with me because I make these for you. So let's talk about what cinnamon is actually doing inside you, because once you understand it, everything else on this list makes sense. Cinnamon carries a compound called cinnamaldehyde. That's the part that gives it the warm, spicy smell. And what it seems to do is help your cells listen a little better to insulin. Think of insulin as the key that unlocks your cells so sugar can get out of your blood and inside where it belongs. After 60, that lock gets stiff and slow to turn. Cinnamaldehyde appears to give the key a bit more grip. It nudges the signal along and helps move those glucose doors, the ones your body calls GLUT4, up to the surface. It also slows how fast sugar leaves your stomach after a meal, so the rise on your meter is gentler instead of a sharp climb. Now here's where I have to be honest with you, because you deserve that. The research on cinnamon is mixed. Some studies show a clear drop in blood sugar, others show very little. That's why the American Diabetes Association does not recommend cinnamon as a treatment, so please hear me clearly. Cinnamon is a helper, not a medicine. It does not replace your prescription, and it does not replace a sensible plate of food. It works around the edges, and around the edges is still worth having. Why does all this matter more now than it did at 45? Because your liver processes things more slowly with age, and your blood sugar tends to swing harder after meals. That means the details are no longer small details. Which type you buy, how much you use, and what you eat it with, those 3 things decide whether cinnamon does anything at all, and that's exactly where most people go wrong. And the very first place people go wrong is the jar itself. Let me tell you about Diane. She's 68, recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and she did what a lot of thoughtful people do. She read that cinnamon helps, so she started using it every single day. A generous shake from the supermarket jar every morning, feeling good about it. I'm getting my cinnamon in, she told herself. But her fasting blood sugar wouldn't budge, and on top of that, she'd started worrying about her memory. Little things, misplaced keys, a name that wouldn't come. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Here's what Diane didn't know, and what almost nobody is told. There are 2 very different spices sold under the same word, cinnamon. The common one in most American kitchens is cassia. The other, the one you have to ask for, is Ceylon. And the difference matters for a reason beyond blood sugar. Cassia contains a compound called coumarin. That's a natural substance your liver has to break down. And in high amounts, it can stress the liver. Cassia runs around 1% coumarin. Ceylon runs about 0.004%. That's roughly 250 times less. To put a number on it, European food safety authorities set a safe daily coumarin limit at about 0.1 milligram per kilogram of body weight. For a 70-kilogram person, that's around 7 milligrams a day. A few teaspoons of cassia can quietly push you past that line. With Ceylon, you'd struggle to get close. But the part that ties back to Diane's memory worry is the lead. Across 2024 and 2025, U.S. regulators flagged and expanded warnings to more than a dozen ground cinnamon products contaminated with lead, some testing between 2 and nearly 8 parts per million. And here's the hard truth from every expert who studies this. There is no known safe level of lead. For a body over 60, lead can accumulate and add to exactly what Diane feared: cognitive decline, higher blood pressure, extra strain on the kidneys. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you because the type of cinnamon in your cabinet matters more than whether you use it at all. So let's fix that, starting with the foods that actually earn their place. Number 5 on our list is the gentlest of the bunch, and it's a good place to start because it's almost impossible to get wrong. Ceylon cinnamon with fresh berries or a sliced apple. Here's why this pairing works better than either one alone. Berries and apples come wrapped in fiber, and fiber is one of your best friends after 60 when it comes to blood sugar. It slows down how quickly the natural sugar in that fruit gets absorbed. So instead of a quick spike, you get a slower, softer rise. Now add the cinnamon on top. That cinnamaldehyde we talked about is already nudging your cells to handle glucose a little better. So the fruit sugar and the cinnamon are working the same shift, pulling in the same direction. But there's a second reason I love this one, and it's about taste. So many people over 60 have a sweet tooth they feel guilty about. Cinnamon gives you a way to satisfy it honestly. Sprinkle Ceylon over sliced apple, and you get that warm, dessert-like flavor with no sugar added at all. The cinnamon is standing in for the sugar you'd otherwise reach for. Let me be specific so you know exactly what to do. Take half an apple, cut it into slices, and dust it with a little Ceylon, or stir it into a small bowl of blueberries. That's it. What you want to avoid is turning this into an actual dessert. No drizzle of honey, no caramel, no scoop of ice cream underneath. The moment you add those, you've undone the whole point. Keep it simple, keep it whole, and let the fruit and the spice do the quiet work. This is the kind of small swap you can make tonight, and it costs you nothing but a shake of the jar. It won't transform your numbers on its own. Remember, cinnamon is the helper here, but it's a clean, easy first step, and it sets the pattern for everything else coming up the list. Number 4 is for those mornings when you're not really eating much. You're just reaching for something warm to hold. Ceylon in your coffee, your tea, or a simple cinnamon water. This one solves a very particular problem. A lot of people ask me about cinnamon capsules and supplements, and my honest answer is that I'd rather you get it from a drink or a food first. When cinnamon comes through your coffee or steeped in water, it arrives gently, alongside everything else, the way your body prefers. It's also the easiest way to fold cinnamon into your day without adding a single calorie or a gram of sugar. Just stir half a teaspoon of Ceylon into your black coffee or a cup of tea and let it settle. Or make cinnamon water, drop a Ceylon stick or a spoonful of the ground spice into hot water, let it steep for 10 minutes, and sip it warm. Now here's the trap, and it's a big one. The moment you start adding sugar, syrup, flavored creamer, or one of those sweet cinnamon lattes, you've flipped this from a help into a harm. The cinnamon becomes a garnish on a sugar delivery system. So the rule is simple: the cinnamon goes in, the sweetener stays out. And that brings up something I want to ask you directly, because I think it'll surprise a few of you once you say it out loud. That coffee you drank this morning, was there sugar or syrup going into it? Flavored creamer counts. Just type yes or no below. I'm not asking to catch anyone out. I'm asking because for so many people, the coffee is the hidden thing quietly working against every good choice they make the rest of the day. Be honest with yourself on this one. It's often the easiest win of all. Get the drink right and you've got cinnamon working for you before you've even sat down to breakfast. Number 3 is where we start adding real staying power, and we do it with healthy fat. Here's the idea. Up to now, we've leaned on fiber and on the cinnamon itself. Now we bring in a third slowing force. When you eat fat alongside your food, it slows down how fast your stomach empties into your intestines, and slower emptying means sugar trickles into your blood instead of flooding it. Pair that with cinnamon, and you've got 2 brakes on the same wheel. This is why a small handful of almonds, or a spoonful of chia and ground flaxseed, becomes something more than a snack. The chia and flax bring fiber of their own, plus that gentle fat, and they hold the whole meal together longer. There are two easy ways to do this. The first is to take a small mix of nuts and seeds and dust it with Ceylon, almonds, a few walnuts, a sprinkle of ground flax, and the cinnamon over the top. The second is chia pudding, made with unsweetened milk, a spoon of chia, and cinnamon stirred through, left in the fridge overnight. In the morning, it's set and ready, and there's not a grain of added sugar in it. But I have to give you one honest caution, especially at our age. Nuts and seeds are wonderful, but they're calorie-dense. A lot of energy packed into a small space. It's easy to sit with the bag and lose track. So measure with your hand, not the bag. A small palmful is a portion. That's plenty to get the benefit without crowding out the rest of your day's food. Do this right, and you've built yourself a snack that actually steadies you between meals instead of setting off another spike. And that matters. Because the next thing I want to show you is what happens when cinnamon shows up on foods that only pretend to be good for you. Because here's the thing nobody warns you about. The word cinnamon gets stamped on some of the worst foods you could put in front of your blood sugar, and the spice on top gives them a health halo they haven't earned. Start with the obvious one. A cinnamon roll, a sticky bun, that swirl of pastry at the bakery counter. It smells like the very thing we've been praising. But a single large one can carry more sugar and saturated fat than a person with diabetes should have in an entire day. The cinnamon in there is doing nothing for you. It's just riding along on a wave of sugar and refined flour that will send your meter climbing. Then there are the quieter offenders, the ones that feel responsible, frosted cinnamon cereals, the kind that look wholesome on the box, cinnamon-flavored yogurts, a cinnamon latte from the coffee shop. These are sugar in a costume. The cinnamon flavor is the disguise, and the sugar underneath is the real content. And this is exactly where Diane was going wrong. Remember her, dutifully shaking cinnamon into her routine, wondering why nothing changed? Every single morning she was pouring herself a bowl of sweetened, frosted cinnamon cereal. She thought the cinnamon was helping her. In truth, that bowl was quietly canceling out every good intention she had. All that effort undone before she'd finished breakfast. She wasn't doing anything foolish. She was doing exactly what the box seemed to promise. So let me reframe this for you, plainly. Cinnamon is a seasoning for a good food. It is not permission for a sweet one. When you sprinkle it on apple slices or oats, it earns its keep. When it sits on top of frosting, it's just there for the smell. Know the difference, and you've already avoided the biggest mistake on this whole subject. Now, with that cleared away, let's climb toward the two foods that do the most. Number 2 brings in a force we haven't used yet, protein. And protein is one of the most reliable tools you have for keeping your blood sugar level after a meal. Here's how it earns second place. Protein digests slowly, and when it's on your plate alongside any starch, it slows that starch down with it. The sugar releases in a gentle stream instead of a sudden rush. Now stir cinnamon into that, and you've got protein doing the heavy lifting while the cinnamon works its edges. Together, they smooth out the rise that would otherwise show up on your meter an hour later. The food I want you reaching for is plain Greek or Icelandic yogurt. Plain is the word that matters. Those thick, strained yogurts are packed with protein, often twice what regular yogurt gives you. But you have to sidestep a trap here, and it's the same trap as before. The fruit-flavored yogurts, the ones with the fruit on the bottom, or the honey swirl, can hide as much sugar as a dessert. So buy it plain and build the flavor yourself. A spoonful of Ceylon, a few berries, maybe a scatter of the nuts and seeds we talked about a moment ago. This makes a genuinely good breakfast, and it's just as useful as an evening snack, which matters after 60 when a little protein before bed can help hold your numbers steady overnight. It's simple, it's satisfying, and it sets you up perfectly for the one food that outperforms everything else on this list. And here we are. Number 1. The simplest, cheapest food on this entire list, and the most powerful, Ceylon cinnamon with steel-cut oats. What makes oats sit at the top is a special kind of fiber called beta-glucan. Think of it as a soft gel that forms in your gut and smooths out the whole absorption of your meal. It flattens the sharp rise that starch would otherwise cause. This isn't a hopeful guess either. A review pulling together 16 separate studies found that oats helped lower overall blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes. That's a real repeatable effect from a food that costs pennies a bowl. But, and this is the whole reason I told you to hold on until number 1, most people ruin it before they even sit down. They reach for instant oatmeal or the flavored packets, and those are a different food entirely. They're processed to cook fast, which means they hit your blood sugar fast, and they usually come preloaded with sugar. So here's how you get it right. Choose steel-cut or whole-rolled oats. Cook them plain. Add a little protein or healthy fat. A spoon of those seeds, a handful of nuts. And instead of a sweet topping, sprinkle Ceylon over the top. On the cinnamon itself, one honest note. An older study by Kahn back in 2003 found that 1 to 3 grams a day, over 40 days, lowered fasting blood sugar. It used cassia, and it's had a formal expression of concern raised about it, so I won't oversell it. But it points the same direction the rest of the science does, and some people notice a difference within the first week or two. And this is exactly the 30-second fix Diane needed. She swapped that frosted cereal for a bowl of steel-cut oats, Ceylon stirred through, a few nuts on top. Same 5 minutes in the morning, completely different bowl. That one change did more for her fasting numbers than all the shaking of the wrong jar ever had, so you know what to eat now. But everything we've covered rests on one thing, getting the right jar into your kitchen in the first place. Let me make that simple. When you shop, turn the label over and look for the Latin name. You want to see Cinnamomum verum or Cinnamomum zeylanicum. That's true Ceylon. If the jar just says cinnamon or even true cinnamon with no Latin name to back it up, put it down, you don't actually know what's inside. And go one step further. Look for third-party testing, names like NSF, USP, or Consumer Lab. And if the brand offers a certificate of analysis for heavy metals, even better. That's your real protection against the lead we talked about. I want to be fair here though, because I don't want you thinking one word on a label solves everything. Ceylon is not automatically clean. Some Ceylon samples have tested for lead too. The thing that actually protects you isn't the name, it's whether the product has been independently tested. That testing is the whole point. On dose, keep it easy, somewhere between 1 and 3 grams a day. That's roughly half to 1 teaspoon, taken with a meal that has some starch in it. More is not better. Piling it on doesn't help your blood sugar, and it only raises the coumarin load. And this last part matters most, so please stay with me. If you take medication to lower your blood sugar or insulin, cinnamon can add to that effect and push you too low. If you're on a blood thinner like warfarin, the coumarin can interfere and raise your bleeding risk. And there are reports of liver inflammation when high-dose cinnamon was taken alongside a statin. So this is a real conversation to have. Which is exactly where I want to leave you, not with fear, but with a clear plan. So let's pull this all together, because I think you see it now in a way you didn't 20 minutes ago. Cinnamon can genuinely help steady your blood sugar, but only when 3 things line up. The right type, which is Ceylon, not the cassia sitting in most cupboards. The right amount, somewhere around half to 1 teaspoon a day. And the right food, cinnamon paired with fiber, protein, or healthy fat, standing in for sugar instead of riding on top of it. Miss any one of those and you get what Diane got for months. A lot of effort and a meter that wouldn't move. Get all 3 right and it quietly starts working for you. It's a helper, never a replacement for your medication or a sensible plate, but a helper worth having. So here's exactly where to start. First, go check the jar in your kitchen tonight. Turn it over and look for Cinnamomum verum. If it's not there, or if it's a brand that's been flagged, replace it with a Ceylon that's been third-party tested. Second, pick one of the 5 foods this week, and if you're not sure, make it steel-cut oats with Ceylon your standing breakfast, and let go of the frosted cereal and the cinnamon buns. Third, keep your dose to about half to 1 teaspoon a day with a meal, and check your fasting blood sugar over the next 1 to 2 weeks so you can watch how your own body responds. And fourth, if you take a diabetes medication, warfarin, or a statin, bring it up with your doctor before you start using cinnamon every day. You might simply ask, I'd like to add cinnamon to my breakfast. Is there anything in my medications I should watch for? That's all it takes. Now I'd love to hear from you. Go look at that jar and tell me, was it Ceylon or cassia? And of everything we covered today, what surprised you the most? Type it below. I read what you share. And if there's someone in your life over 60 who uses cinnamon every single day and has never once checked which kind it is, send them this video. It might be the 30-second fix they've been missing too. I'm Dr. Claire Whitmore. Everything I've shared today is here to educate you and put good information in your hands. It isn't a prescription, and it isn't a reason to stop or change any medication on your own. Please never do that without talking to the doctor who knows your history. You've taken good care of your